If we raise our children with AI, what will happen? Nobody knows what's going to happen. Gen Alpha, the kids who were born after 2010 or 2011, they may have it worst of all. We don't have 10 years to wait to prove that it's damaging our children.
So before we start, could you introduce yourself for our Korean viewers?
Sure. So my name is Jonathan Haidt. I'm a social psychologist. I teach at New York University's Stern School of Business. As a social psychologist, I've been very interested in the way that technology is changing society, especially human relationships and human consciousness. I first noticed that something was going very wrong with young people, with their mental health and their ability to focus around 2014, 2015. I was very focused on social media and smartphones. But in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm getting much more concerned about AI. AI will be much more powerful than social media. AI is, I believe, by far the largest technological change we've ever been through, far bigger than fire or the printing press or electricity or anything else.
You're teaching a course called Flourishing since the early 2000s.
I was very shaped by the 1990s, which was a period where the Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War ended, the internet arrived, and the internet was amazing. And it offered free information to everybody. It'll connect us all. It'll bring down dictators. So we were all techno-optimists in the 1990s and into the 2000s. But I've written a lot on how everything changed, why the technology changed from being socially constructive to being socially very destructive in the 2010s. Especially the business model where companies are competing to grab our attention and hold on to it at whatever cost. So the world that my students were going into in 2007 when I was at the University of Virginia was a very hopeful world. And the world that my students are going into now in 2026 is not as hopeful. And one of the big reasons for that is AI. So first we have to understand that the concept of a digital native was a horrible mistake. We assumed that if kids grow up with screens and swiping and all the technology, that they'll be very good at it and they will in some sense be ahead of us. That's not what happened. Human beings need to go through a normal human developmental process. You need to learn to crawl, then walk, then run. They need to learn to do human relationships face to face. They need to develop normal human toughness. And what happened instead is that the phone-based childhood, which came in really between 2010 and 2015, it blocked human development. The kids who went through it, we call them Gen Z, the ones who went through puberty on smartphones and Instagram and social media, they are not digital natives with an advantage. They have been, what's the word? Blocked, diminished in their human capabilities. So please, nobody should think that if you want to prepare your child for the digital future, you should expose them early. That is the wrong way to think. And the same thing for AI. If we raise our children with AI, what will happen? There's already AI in teddy bears. The AI is very responsive. The AI will tell them stories. The AI will comfort them. What is that going to do to the attachment system? A child must attach to its parents. And that happens with thousands of back and forth interactions with the parents. The child develops a secure attachment to their parents. But if the parents are busy because they're always on their phones and their computers, but the AI teddy bear is very responsive, the child's going to attach to the teddy bear or whatever AI it has.
And it's advertised to be a friendly, interactive one.
Hold the matchbox with one hand. The rough strip is for striking.
When they get older, boys and girls should be exploring love and sexuality. But if they all have AI chatbot lovers who are much more responsive and much sexier, they won't learn how to fall in love. So the concept of an AI native is an abomination. If we want to prepare our children for the AI future, we should protect them from AI as much as we can, at least through puberty. I'm not saying they can't use ChatGPT, but we should not have any relationships with chatbots until they are done with puberty. Older generations, our brains developed normally before all of this nonsense began. So these technologies are extremely easy to use. Anybody who was older than 25 when they first encountered any of these things learned them very, very quickly. But the human brain goes through a reorganization in puberty, especially between ages, let's say 11 or 12 through 16, roughly. Your brain is going through a very fast reorganization. And so what I am focused on is let's protect puberty. There is evidence that this is where the greatest damage happens, is in puberty. If kids are going through puberty, not interacting with other kids, but interacting with an algorithm that is giving them quick dopamine all the time, this is going to change brain development, literally change the way the neurons are wiring up. So the first generation that grew up with the internet was the millennials. They grew up with the internet in the 90s, and it was fine. It was healthy. It was open. But it got darker in the 2010s especially. So Gen Z had a much more toxic, predatory internet environment than the millennials did. Gen Alpha, the kids who were born after 2010 or 2011, they may have it worst of all because those are the kids who grew up from the time they were 2 with an iPad in their hand. We just don't know the effect of going through toddlerhood and childhood with quick dopamine all day long. The effect cannot be good, and it might be very bad. We just don't know yet. I think your question pretty much answers itself. It's called cognitive offloading. The whole point of a school is to do cognitive onloading. It is to get people to think and think when it's hard and think about things they don't know how to think about yet. And you struggle and you build new mental structures. And that can only happen with a long engagement, with a book, with a course where you're challenged. If you go to the gym and they offer you machines to do all the weightlifting for you, why would you go to the gym? And now that all these tech companies are pushing their AI into our kids' schools, the tech companies, they got Google, for example, they got into all our schools. And because they have access to all of our kids, now they're pushing AI onto our kids, even at very young ages. We have to push back. Even if we don't know for sure that this is damaging them, the early signs are that it is damaging them. There's no point in going to school if you're going to simply be using tools to answer the questions. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear this. I think Korea has, I have great respect for Korean culture, for its traditional values, for the hard work, for the emphasis on education. When I visited in 2015 with my family, I was sorry to learn about the Hagwon system. I was so sorry to learn that Korean children are not allowed to have a human childhood, that Korean childhood is preparation for getting into university. So I'm very concerned that Korea already has deprived its children of childhood. If you're now going to stuff AI into their childhood, then you're going to make it much harder for them to have human relationships because the AI will take the relationships. And it will make it then much harder for them to think because the AI will do their thinking for them. I urge Korea to change course. I believe you are making a big mistake. I may be wrong. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So I may be wrong. And given what we've seen from the battle over social media, where it took us 20 years to finally get the evidence together to say, this is really damaging our children. AI has only been with us for 2 or 3 years, really. We don't have 10 years to wait to prove that it's damaging our children. I urge Korea to stop. I urge Korea to roll back your commitment to AI, especially for the younger students. I don't know what to say about your 16-year-olds, but I do know what to say about your 6-year-olds, which is stop it. AI helps you answer questions. We already have experiments. There was a famous one done at MIT in which 3 groups of people were supposed to read something and then write something. One group just used their brains, one group used Google, one group used ChatGPT. The one who used ChatGPT produced the best output because they had ChatGPT writing it. But then they tested them by having them just write on their own with no help. And the one that had used ChatGPT now performed worse because they didn't learn anything. So I see no reason to think that AI is going to improve learning. In theory, it could. And in theory, social media could have improved social relationships, but it didn't. And I think the same is happening with AI. I'm sure there are thousands of positive uses of AI. And that's the way we've been sold all of this technology. There are thousands of possible uses of computers in the classroom, but it didn't work out that way. The main use of a computer in the classroom is to watch YouTube, video games, and pornography. There are thousands of uses of social media that would be healthy and creative, but the main way it's used is to watch short videos that rot your brain. There are thousands of possible ways that AI could be beneficial, and someone might find them. But overall, past experience shows us that the dream, the possibilities, the glorious potential will not be realized. We are going to be tricked, just like we were tricked with computers in the classroom, just like we were tricked with social media. We must not trust these companies. These companies have repeatedly earned our distrust. Do not let these technologies into childhood until they are well proven to have benefits. So far, their track record is terrible. For the first time in human history, education is going down around the world. I don't know the stats for Korea, but in America and many other countries, our kids were actually getting a little smarter slowly and steadily from the 1970s when we began collecting standardized data all the way to 2012. Scores went up. We learned more about how to educate. And then they started dropping. It wasn't because of COVID. It didn't start in 2020. It started after 2012. So do not believe the people who say, look at the amazing things that might happen. Yes, they might happen, but they're probably not going to. First, get rid of almost all of the technology, especially for younger students. Let them learn to read and write. Teach them to enjoy books, to learn from books, to live in a culture of books. As long as Korean children are surrounded by options for quick dopamine, they will not read books. The right age to give your child a smartphone is the age at which you want them to stop reading books. If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Korea has always been a very tech-forward country. Of course you are. You're tech innovators. But I think it's a huge mistake to push that into childhood. It does not belong in childhood. We are humans who have evolved relational systems. If we confide our problems in an intelligent creature who expresses sympathy and asks appropriate questions, of course we're going to grow to love it. When kids are a little older, if that creature is sexy and flirty and funny, and if you can put her or him in a body that is beautiful, of course you're going to fall madly in love, passionate love, where you want to have sex with that person, that artificial person. There was recently a case in America of a man who ultimately killed himself, but only after trying many ways to get his AI wife a body. He tried to buy robots to put his AI lover in, and ultimately he was driven to suicide. Humans will fall in love with creatures that are responsive to their needs. AI may be more effective than humans in doing that in the short run, but I do not believe that a vision of the future in which everyone has their perfect AI lover and their pretend AI parent is a human future. That seems to me the most dystopic future I can imagine. Well, I think that in America, we're not getting much help from our legislators. In other countries, they might. In America, the situation, I think, is kind of like junk food. When junk food is everywhere, we have to learn to not eat it, and it's very hard for our children. But this is like super duper junk food. This is not just like candy bars. This is like we're all wearing like a harness that holds in front of us a chocolate bar if we want chocolate. But it knows that actually, no, he's craving salt, so let's show him fried chicken. No, he wants ice cream, let's show him ice cream. Like actual ice cream in front of your face all the time. I don't think human beings would have the willpower to resist such a machine. And if we habitually have our AI co-pilot, our AI friend, our AI lover right there in the palm of our hand, it would be very hard for us to resist. So I think ultimately governments will have to restrain these companies. And we have to change the way we see them. We have to start with suspicion, not admiration. If a company makes automobiles and a lot of people get killed in those automobiles, not because the people did something stupid, but because the glass in the windshield was not safety glass, it was dangerous, or because the wheels fell off, or for any other reason, if the deaths are related to the poor design of the product, that company will be sued. The victims have a right to sue for damages. That's the way a free market society works, with one exception. There was one industry that was granted complete freedom from lawsuits. The US Congress granted social media complete freedom from lawsuits. Well, it wasn't phrased that way originally, but the protection from lawsuits over that in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, that act was interpreted to say you can't sue. Since then, that was 1996. Since then, thousands and probably tens of thousands of young people are dead from suicide, cyberbullying, dangerous challenges, drug overdoses because it's so easy to buy drugs on Snapchat, sextortion leading to suicide. So thousands and thousands of kids are dead. No one ever had the right to sue. Parents have been trying for decades. They finally got into the courthouse 2 months ago, 3 months ago in California. And for the first time in history, the most powerful companies in the world will be treated like normal companies, where if they have defective designs that are hurting children, they will have to pay the damages. so for the first time in their history, they will actually have an incentive to make safer products.
So the last question, how far should we let AI go?
With children, not far at all. It's hard for me to say that there should be limits on adults. We allow adults to do stupid, dangerous things and make their own decisions. So I rarely talk about anything involving adults. But at the same time, every civilized society has age limits on things that are addictive, that expose children to extreme sexuality, that expose children to extreme violence, or that expose them to physical harms in other ways. Social media does all four for our children. We have to have an age limit now. It is an adult product. It should not be used by children. The same is true for AI. Now, I can't say that children should not be able to use ChatGPT. I think they'd be better off if they didn't use it till they were 16. But what I can say is that all of the companies that are making relational chatbots, human relations, friends, lovers, all of that, I think we need to start with a policy not for children. You have to be 18 to use those. Maybe we'll decide in 5 years, oh, it turns out it's perfectly safe. Fine, we can lower the age. I don't think we're going to find that. But if you treasure your attention and then use it to do hard things in real life with other people, then, and trust me on this as a social psychologist, your life is going to be amazing.
Actual companies using AI, especially if you're doing coding, you kind of have to use AI right now, right? It's always possible that something's overinflated or not. So part of this is about deciding what skills you want to keep human and not giving those away to the AI, or at least not all the time. I think the real value is going to come from people who can transform how they do work. But that's a choice you get to make.